Final Fantasy XIV is changing. Here's everything you need to know. In a recent interview, Yoshi P talked about his concerns with the game in 2024. The main point that everyone is talking about is his belief that 14 has become too relaxed and stress-free. Yoshi P said, "From now on, we'll keep working to surprise players and surpass their expectations. But there is one thing that I've been reflecting on. As we've continued to operate Final Fantasy XIV, we've made the game more approachable so that it can be played without stress. But looking back on the last 10 years, we may have overdone it. And to be honest, I kind of agree. With the exception of Savage and Ultimate Rating, the game itself is really easy. Anyone who has leveled a job knows that unless you get a Shadowbringer's dungeon or higher, you can probably shut your brain off because honestly, you won't need it. This is a huge shift from the game, a needed one. As someone who recently got into this game 2 years ago, the journey from A Realm Reborn to Stormblood was painfully easy. Some people will say the game tries to avoid putting massive difficulty spikes inside the mandatory content because they don't want to keep people from playing through the story, but as Yoshi P acknowledged in the interview, a game that has no element of stress will not be exciting. Don't get me wrong, 14 does have some really hard content, but it's all sectioned off in its own little corner and it's all optional. Which, don't get me wrong, I think it's a good idea. I don't think dungeons need to be as hard as an extreme trial, but currently dungeons are way too easy to the point that I can honestly say that any dungeon that is pre-Shadowbringers should basically be considered a tutorial. This is a problem because of the duty roulette system. While I understand that not everyone plays the game the same, whether you are a raider, a Limsa AFKer, a crafter, a G-poser, a RPer, or any of the other Ers, we all use the duty roulette system at one point or another. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, the duty roulette system is like queuing up for quick play in a multiplayer game. The game puts you in a party with other randoms, throws you into a random dungeon, and spits out a bunch of XP when you finish it. And while you can get a current level dungeon or raid, you will most likely get a really old dungeon to help out the poor Sprout who waited 25 minutes because they queued as a DPS. Which goes back to my original point. The game, for the most part, is really easy. But when you get thrown back into a level 30 dungeon when you are at level 80, you really start to see how different the game was 10 years ago when A Realm Reborn was first released. Because not only are you playing through brain dead content, you also get all of your cool abilities taken away. The abilities that make your job interesting in the first place. And as you play 14, you start to realize that you're constantly going back to that old and very easy content. This, in my opinion, is what